feel pretty good.
What is it?
It's just three cars just moving around. It's like a triangle.
New York has seen its share of strange nights, but this one caught everyone off guard. A group of locals recorded a UFO dropping behind a row of buildings, calm and controlled, like it had a plan. Seconds later, the city changed. Phones lit up, power flickered, and people on the street froze as something moved in the glow above the skyline. UFO reports in New York have been climbing all year, but nothing has matched what happened that night. Hudson Valley UFO sightings.
I can't tell what it is, but it's...
Let's start with the biggest wave of UFOs that New Yorkers experienced. The story of the Hudson Valley UFO sightings reads like a mystery novel. It's full of strange lights, credible witnesses, and relentless waves of sightings that shocked communities and scientists of New York City during the 1980s. Over the course of several years, starting around 1982, residents from small towns in the Hudson Valley started looking up with astonishment as night skies repeatedly filled with massive, silent, glowing shapes that moved in a way that no normal aircraft ever would. On New Year's Eve, just before midnight, an off-duty police officer in Kent, New York, watched a boomerang-shaped craft drift slowly above his house. He and his family saw about 15 red, green, and white lights fixed underneath what seemed to be a solid structure, hovering at about 150 meters altitude and moving with only a faint hum. Shortly afterwards, another witness, who was a man driving along Interstate 84, claimed to see the same craft. As he watched, the UFO projected a beam of light to the ground and then turned toward him. The man said he heard a voice in his head telling him not to be afraid. To make this even more surprising, this is a detail that many people who saw this UFO spotted. As months turned to years, the frequency of sightings escalated dramatically. On the night of March 24, 1983, more than 300 people across Westchester and Putnam counties reported that they could see a huge V-shaped formation adorned with colored lights hovering silently over major highways and the Taconic Parkway. During this time, police stations were overwhelmed with different phone calls, and traffic stopped a lot because motorists got out of their cars to look upward and see UFOs. That evening, the craft was described as moving slowly. It sometimes hovered and then turned or vanished altogether. This behavior is something that you can't see with a normal aircraft. Over the next 2 years, the phenomenon morphed into a literal UFO wave. Witnesses started reporting that they saw boomerang or V-shaped crafts and circular, cross-shaped, or diamond-shaped light formations. On June 11, 1984, during a town meeting in Newcastle County, a giant V-shaped light formation was buzzing in the sky. Then, on July 24, 1984, a resident of Brewster filmed a circular ring of lights hovering silently. Even if this footage was analyzed later, there was no definitive explanation for this UFO sighting. The Hudson Valley UFO wave is one of the most documented events in ufology history, especially because of the number of credible observers. Everyone saw it, from local residents and police officers to nuclear plant security guards and other professionals. In fact, at least 5,000 people witnessed a UFO during the period from 1982 to 1986. People saw different kinds of UFOs at that time. Some of them saw a football field-sized UFO with solid understructures that blocked out the stars behind them. Other people experienced high strangeness. There were lights that vanished and reappeared elsewhere in the sky. Some people even had reports of missing time or strange dreams and abduction-type memories. Even with how strange the UFOs were, skeptics attempted to provide more conventional explanations. Some argued that the lights were nothing more than ultralight airplanes coming from a small airfield at Stormville Airport. Some pilots also admitted to flying these formations, calling themselves the Martians. Still, these explanations weren't solid when you look at the wave of UFO sightings. On at least one night, multiple police officers and regular citizens insisted that what they saw was definitely not a plane. This UFO wave was about 4 decades ago, and it seems like it's repeating again, as a UFO was spotted over New York buildings. UFO over New York buildings. Just after 11 p.m. on a cool summer night in 2020, New Yorkers looked up and saw something they would never forget. At first, it looked like a cluster of blue lights. It was bright, steady, and arranged too neatly to be stars. The lights hung motionless over the skyline, glowing like tiny sapphires against the dark. Witnesses filmed a UFO in New York, and moments later, something surreal happened. People stopped on sidewalks, leaned out of their apartment windows, and pulled out their phones. There was no sound or movement, just those strange blue lights hovering above the city that never sleeps. From a distance, it almost looked playful, like someone had suspended a row of lanterns in the sky. But as cameras zoomed in, the mood shifted. The lights weren't floating independently, but they were being emitted by something. It was something unlike anything the public had ever been told existed. The object revealed itself slowly. Its body, if it could even be called that, looked nothing like an aircraft. It was flat, wide, and shaped more like an enormous slab of stone than any kind of plane. Black, uneven, and textured with strange ridges, it almost resembled a giant piece of rock suspended unnaturally in midair. There were no wings, tail, or visible engines or propellers. And eerier still, it gave off no noise. Witnesses described the moment as surreal. The UFO just hovered there, steady and unwavering, for a full 5 minutes. It didn't drift, shake, or show any signs of propulsion. For this strange UFO, it was almost like the laws of physics didn't apply to it. But witnesses didn't realize that it would even get weirder. Just as quietly as it had appeared, the UFO started to rise. It floated upward with a smooth, effortless motion, and the blue lights were pulsing slightly as it ascended. The higher it moved, the dimmer the lights became until they vanished completely, and no one knew where they went. The entire encounter lasted less than 5 minutes. In the days that followed, scientists and researchers took notice. Video footage spread rapidly, and analysts combed through every frame. Everyone was asking, what was that object? How was it hovering without any mechanisms? And how did it remain silent? It was clear that the UFO didn't match any known aircraft model. Skeptics pushed back. They suggested that there could be a natural explanation, like a drone, trick of atmospheric lighting, or even a classified test. But the witnesses who saw it up close rejected those explanations. They had never seen anything of that shape or size before. Fast forward to 2025, New York has seen a high number of UFOs, and it seems like the Hudson Valley UFO wave is happening again. Recent 2025 sightings. In the first 6 months of 2025, the skies above New York State have seen an extraordinary surge of reports of mysterious aerial activity, sparking curiosity, debate, and a renewed sense of wonder. According to the National UFO Reporting Center, there have been 66 distinct reports of UFOs across the state between January and June. It's a slight increase from the previous year's tally. Whether it's the quiet suburbs or the bustling airspace over Manhattan, eyewitnesses have described a wide range of odd UFOs. Many have spotted glowing green orbs hovering silently over towns like Norwood, shape-shifting lights darting across the sky. Silent triangular crafts, fast-moving disks, and some have even said white saucers. One report stands out too. On June 24th, a passenger aboard a flight approaching New York City claimed a metallic sphere passed just 100 to 200 feet under the plane. It was smooth, spherical, and unlike any balloon or conventional aircraft. The UFO sightings weren't only seen in rural areas. Suburban towns such as Chester and Evans Mills, which is close to a military base, have logged multiple sightings, prompting speculation about whether some of the phenomena could be related to military activity or secret aerial craft. In Chester, for instance, one observer reported two white orbs that abruptly executed a nearly 90-degree turn mid-flight before morphing into dark aerodynamic ovals. To make this even more shocking, they filmed a UFO that landed in New York. Many people have photo or video evidence of these UFOs, but New FORC has so far withheld releasing that material in public. But most of the sightings remain unverified. The range of possible explanations in New York is broad. They say these UFOs could be drones, misidentified aircraft, atmospheric phenomena, or even reflections from satellites. Others point to potential military testing, especially since some of these sightings were clustered near defense installations. But the sheer number of sightings and the recurring descriptions of unusual flight behavior have caused many people to wonder whether some of these incidents might fall outside the realm of normal technology or explanations. What are these UFOs? Are they advanced human technology or something more extraordinary? Well, experts are looking back to how this is similar to some of the most shocking UFOs in New York. Back in 2001, New York and its neighboring states saw formations of orange and yellow lights, and investigators soon dived in to find out what happened. 2001 New Jersey Turnpike lights. Late on the night of July 14, 2001, a quiet stretch of the New Jersey Turnpike transformed into the setting of what many call one of America's most credible modern UFO sightings. Between the exits near Carteret, motorists slammed on their brakes and pulled to the shoulder after spotting a strange formation of glowing lights hovering over the waters of Arthur Kill Waterway. This is a stretch of water that separates Staten Island from New Jersey. Many witnesses counted as many as 16 or more bright orange-yellow lights, arranged in a distinct V-shaped or triangular configuration. As heads craned upward and phones came out, even local law enforcement and a veteran Navy man stopped to stare. One of the witnesses, Daniel Tarrant, a lieutenant with the Carteret Police Department, later confirmed what hundreds of other stunned motorists had seen. The lights hovered silently for roughly 15 minutes, hanging motionless above the waterway. They didn't see any blinking navigation lights, and they didn't hear any engine noise. The witnesses also didn't see any aircraft causing the lights. As the evening grew later, more cars pulled over, stories multiplied, and the phone lines at the Carteret Police Department lit up with calls from amazed residents, travelers, and even people at backyard barbecues. This is shocking, like the Hudson wave of UFOs, because it was seen by many people. Soon after, a group of independent researchers who called themselves the New York Strange Phenomena Investigators claimed to have obtained radar data from the Federal Aviation Administration. They revealed that the radar actually corroborated the presence of unidentified aerial targets in the area at that time. The radar data showed objects with no transponders that were moving silently or hovering, and then they disappeared without a trace. 1990s Pine Bush Hotspot. At the end of the Hudson Valley UFO wave, New York also saw another shocking series of UFOs that brought up a lot of questions. It seemed like the UFO wave wasn't over. Pine Bush is just a small hamlet in New York, but it quickly gained a reputation during the 1990s as America's most persistent and strange UFO hotspot. As the great wave of sightings across the broader Hudson Valley started to fade. In the late 1980s, many observers discovered something shocking. Under the dark skies and wide open fields, there were strange lights, boomerangs, and orb-shaped objects. The interest in Pine Bush started in 1991, when researcher Ellen Crystal published a book that showed all the UFOs that she had spotted during skywatching in and around the village. Her vivid descriptions of triangular, disc-shaped, and orb-like craft in the night sky caused many to be curious about the UFOs in the area. One of the most shocking sightings was on the night of May 1995, when two first-timers drove down the fields. They rounded a bend, reached a cul-de-sac, and there, rising above the dark woods, was a glowing arc of deep red light. For a moment, it was steady and strange as it hovered, and then the object slowly descended back toward the forest. It was definitely not an airplane, helicopter, or balloon. Meanwhile, a few years before that, one of the famous public figures in New York revealed that he saw a UFO. John Lennon, 1974. Manhattan sighting. In the warm evening of August 23, 1974, John Lennon and his companion May Pang witnessed something unforgettable from their penthouse on East 52nd Street in Manhattan. Lennon freshly stepped out onto their terrace and called urgently for May. He found himself face to face with a strange object hovering nearby. Together, they saw a large, dark, circular craft, glowing with a ring of bright lights underneath, and a steady red beacon on top. The craft hovered just above the neighboring rooftops, apparently no more than 100 feet away. It was so close that Lennon says he could have hit it with a brick. Its underside was ringed with regular white electric bulbs blinking on and off rhythmically, while the top bore a calm red light. Even if that region of New York was busy, there was no humming engine, rotor noise, or markings of any conventional aircraft. Intrigued and awestruck, Lennon and Pang hurried inside to fetch a camera and even a telescope, but the photographs came out blank because the film was overexposed and devoid of any trace of the object. The craft then drifted slowly above the East River, gliding past buildings before pausing over a bridge. Then the object lifted straight up and vanished into the night sky. Lennon quickly revealed to the public what he had seen, but not even a famous musician saw a UFO in New York. Even the United Nations has spotted a UFO right over it. 1966. Sighting over the UN. In November 1966, on an ordinary afternoon in New York City, a shocking event unfolded over the skyline. This UFO was directly visible from the offices near the headquarters of the United Nations. Employees of the American Newspaper Publishers Association, gathered on their 10th-floor terrace at 750 3rd Avenue, glanced eastward over the East River. They couldn't believe what they had just seen. What emerged was described not as a bird, plane, or balloon, but as a strange cushion-shaped object, almost rectangular, moving slowly and hovering with an odd buoyancy above the UN building. The spacecraft was seen around 4:20 p.m. in clear daylight, bobbing and drifting gently. It was almost like it was floating on a choppy sea. Its surface reflected sunlight in a golden glint, and this is what attracted the attention of 8 witnesses who later filled out formal statements talking about these UFOs. Interestingly, those who saw it weren't normal stargazers. They were professionals in a bustling midtown office, simply glancing out toward the East River when silence and stillness above Manhattan suddenly turned uncanny. For a couple of minutes, the object hovered. It didn't zoom away or flicker like an airplane. Then, it suddenly rose, gained speed, and vanished eastward. The sighting was reported to local officials, but no one investigated it, and the official channels were silent. Still, the UFO remains one of the strangest sightings in New York. 1964. Gary Wilcox. On the morning of April 24, 1964, a farmer named Gary Wilcox was working alone on his 300-acre farm outside Newark Valley, but he didn't realize what he saw. There was a peculiar bright flash of light on a nearby hill, but he still couldn't believe what was happening. When he looked more closely, he found out that there was an oblong metallic craft hovering just above the ground, and not just a farm tool or old machinery. It was about 20 feet long, smooth and seamless, with no visible rivets or markings, and silent in a way no conventional aircraft could ever be. As Wilcox approached, two small humanoid figures emerged from beneath the craft. They were roughly 4 feet tall, clad in silvery white coveralls. Their heads were fully covered, featureless beneath what looked like smooth helmets or masks. One of them drew closer to Wilcox and spoke. Although the voice seemed unusual and almost mechanical, it used words he could understand. The beings claimed to be from another planet and explained they had been monitoring Earth's environment and were particularly interested in farming practices and soil cultivation. Wilcox remembered them asking simple questions about his tractor, manure spreaders, and fertilizer. The encounter lasted around 2 hours. At one point, Wilcox even offered to show them some fertilizer to take with them. This was a gesture the beings politely declined. Then, just as silently as it arrived, the craft lifted off. It glided away with almost no sound, fading into the blue of the morning sky within minutes. 1956, Ryan Neff UFO chase. And just a few years before this happened, on the night of April 8, 1956, the aircraft carrying Ryan and Neff lifted off from Albany, bound in half over New York. At around 6,000 feet, somewhere north of Schenectady, the crew spotted a very bright white light, at first appearing like any aircraft's landing light. But where a plane should have been, there was only a single, silent glow. As the light drew nearer, the pilots realized this was no ordinary air traffic. They recognized that something highly unusual was unfolding. The object didn't behave like a conventional aircraft. The light seemed to hover, then unexpectedly darted ahead, shifting from white to a vivid orange, before positioning itself directly in the path of their plane, as though daring them to come closer. At that point, the pilots contacted ground control and the radar operators at Griffiths Air Force Base. Under orders, Ryan and Neff abandoned their scheduled landing at Syracuse and followed the bizarre light across the state. For nearly half an hour, they chased the object. Passengers and crew alike watched, transfixed, as the mysterious light remained ahead, at times closing in as close as a few miles. Eventually, the UFO accelerated dramatically. Witnesses estimated its final speed at upward of 1,500 miles per hour before it vanished altogether, leaving nothing behind. You won't believe that they filmed a UFO right in New York, floating above the buildings. It looked nothing like a human-made aircraft, displaying blue lights. This reminds experts of the famous UFO sightings like the Hudson Valley wave. What do you think this strange UFO was? Let us know your thoughts in the comments. So, thanks for watching this video, and we will see you in the next one.